last week. We talked about the upcoming beatification of the Venerable John Cardinal Henry Newman, for which all Newman Centers, before all Newman Centers were named. And I said up until the beatification ceremony next Sunday in Birmingham, England, we're going to just talk a little bit about him, just to know about his life. I have two quotes, actually, from him to share with you today. Maybe you knew one of these quotes, but didn't know it came from him. And one little tidbit of trivia that I didn't know until today, actually. First quote, "Faith can make a hero, but love makes a saint." That's true. Great quote. Next, "In a higher world it is otherwise, but here below, to live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often." Ever hear that quote? I didn't know it was from him either, actually, until recently. It's a great quote, especially given our reading today. And here's the tidbit of information. John Cardinal Henry Newman next Sunday will be the first person that our own Holy Father, Benedict XVI, beatifies with his own hands and his own words. It has been those who have been beatified in the past during his tenure as Pope were beatified by other cardinals or bishops that he gave permission to do that. And he's doing himself, John Cardinal Henry Newman, next Sunday. So I think that's pretty great news. Anyway. A lousy old camera bag, right? That's all it is. A lousy old camera bag. Inside, it was valuable at the time, but now, since I had it in 1997, by the way, this story, only 4 megapixels. And today, what do we got? 10, 12, 40 megapixel cameras? I mean, so only still cameras, or still pictures, no video, yada yada. Anyway, I took this camera and this bag to Canterbury, England, to visit for 1 week with one of our confreres, Father Tom. And in our haste, after leaving Canterbury and taking about 140 pictures, we were in Gatwick Airport train station on our way to Victoria Station. I hooked it over the cart that we were moving our luggage to the train and left it there when we got on the train to go to Victoria Station. 4 days later, I realized I was missing the camera bag. I didn't take any pictures in 4 days in London because it rained every day. But when I finally realized, I had to start backtracking, where is that camera, where is that camera? Did it get stolen? And then, oh my God, Stu, I left it on a cart going from Gatwick Airport. Everybody I spoke to in London says, you know, that camera is gone. You're never going to see that camera again. There's no way you got it back. Was your name on it? And I said, no name, no nothing. But I know every one of the pictures. Anyway, I called Gatwick Station, and some good Samaritan turned it in to the lost and found. And after I described each of the 140 pictures to the person, they said, okay, this must be your camera. They put it on the next train going to Victoria Station, and hence I had the bag. The bag means nothing to me. The camera means nothing. What was valuable to me? The photographs that were priceless. I took photos. I'll never go back to Canterbury as far as I'm concerned. So they were priceless, and I have them back. Now, our readings today are a little bit about lost and found, and about a lot of rejoicing and merrymaking. I kind of debated even talking about the first reading from the book of Exodus, where the people of Israel, newly liberated from slavery in Egypt, are hanging out in the desert, waiting for Moses to come down with the 10 Commandments from the mountain. They had already knew they were entering into a covenant with God. But they didn't see God. They didn't see God. They didn't experience God. So they wanted to see God. So they coaxed Aaron into making this molten image of a calf, a golden calf, so that they could bow down and worship and say, here's your God, O Israel. This is the God who brought you out of slavery. They forgot that it was the God who freed them from slavery and promised them this land flowing with milk and honey that had really done it, and he is an invisible God. Moses, well, I'm sorry to say this, but God wanted to annihilate these people. And it was because Moses pleaded with God, and God showed them mercy. The people lost their way for a while, as as is very common if you follow salvation history and the Jewish nation, they lost their way often. But God, in His great and unconditional mercy, always welcomed them back with open arms. Loved them that much. Paul was very gentle in his letter to talk to Timothy, actually, but he comes out to the whole world that he was a blasphemer. He was arrogant. Nay, I say he was a darn murderer. I mean, let's say the truth. And he realized he had gone astray until Jesus called him back. He found Jesus, fell in love with Christ crucified, and changed his life forever. He found God's great love and mercy, and he became the greatest missionary the church has ever known. Our gospel today, some scripture scholars say that if all four gospels were lost, except for this parable that we heard today, we still have the essence of Jesus' teaching about the revelation of who God is for us. Amazing. Talks about a shepherd who lost a sheep because the sheep, you know how sheep are, they just went astray. Happy to find the sheep and rejoicing when he got found. The woman had 10 coins, one was lost. Maybe all she had to live on was the 10. When she found it, it got lost still accidentally, but she found it and rejoiced. But then we come to the crux of the story, the prodigal son story. We have a younger son and an older son and a father. And the younger son commits probably the most heinous crime in all of Judaism. He says to his father, who's standing there in front of him, I want my inheritance when you die. Awful, terrible thing. The father, because he was so extravagant in his love for his son, he gave him the inheritance. Gave it. And the son squandered it. He didn't want to, he wanted to live a happy life. He wanted to be free and easy, you know, and realizes that he had nothing left. And he put his tail between his legs, rehearsed his speech, and on his way back to his father, he didn't even have to get to the door. His father was looking for him. His father was waiting for him to come. And he rehearses, or he says the speech he rehearsed, and the father welcomes him back with open arms. And then we have the older son who lost his way too. He lost his way because he was jealous of the father's love for the younger son. This is called the story of the prodigal son. You know what the word prodigal means? It means recklessly extravagant. The younger son was recklessly extravagant with the inheritance money that was given him by his father. Recklessly extravagant. Lost it all, had to come back crying and apologizing. But I think the story can also be called the prodigal father, because the father was equally extravagant, recklessly extravagant with his love, and even giving the younger son his money, and even going out to the older son and inviting him back into the house and into the celebration. That older son stands for all of us who are errant and stray and go away because of our sinfulness. And we don't hear the end of the story. We don't know if the older son accepted the father's recklessly extravagant love. The Lord offers us that recklessly extravagant love no matter how often we stray, no matter how far we stray, whether we stray accidentally in our sinfulness or deliberately in our sinfulness. Jesus is always there, open arms, sharing his recklessly extravagant love. What does he ask us to do with that love that he offers us? He asks us to share it recklessly, extravagantly,